And the number 13 is very significant. I was 13 years at Wisdom's Goldenrod studying Neoplatonism, and then 13 years in Hades, actually literally following my husband, down, trying to understand why he died that horrible death, and discovered that on the 19th of September, when the fire happened, he lived 9 days and severely burned and then died. On the 19th of September, I found out in the Eleusinian Mysteries was the Greater Mysteries. And that was the only day that suicide was permitted. And men would come from India, and they would immolate themselves. And fires could be seen all over Greece. And the Hierophant would, there would be bonfires. And then there would be lesser mysteries in the spring. But this always occurred in the autumn. And this happened on the 19th of September with my husband. And the corresponding date, at least according to Carl Karenyi, what's his name, Karenyi? He said that it was in the month of Boedromion, I don't know how to pronounce it, which corresponds to the month of September. So these synchronicities, represent to me the intersection of two worlds. You have the literal world where something tragic happens out of nowhere. And then you have, if you listen to other people, the guru does not come from a freaking ashram. The guru comes from your sister-in-law. It comes from the slave girl at the mill. I've got quotes here from, it says, "Be not arrogant because of thy knowledge, and have no this came from 2,400 years ago in Egypt. Be not arrogant because of thy knowledge, and have no confidence in that thou art a learned man. Take counsel with the ignorant as with the wise, for the limits of art cannot be reached, and no artist fully possesses his skill. A good discourse is more hidden than the precious green stone, and yet it is found with the slave girls over the millstones." That is the essence of the wisdom tradition. It is everywhere. It's in your life. It's in your life. Look for it. Because what we're trying to achieve is the intersection of two worlds, which is next. Okay, I want to give you more speeches, but I want to get to the juice first, because the speeches are so juicy here. But instead of that, I'm going to go directly to the heart of the matter, and then if we have time, I'll read a couple more speeches. Okay, the disappearance of Sophia coincided with the restriction of Judaism into monotheism. Now, that paper that I first read you at the beginning, I really socked it to him. I've been doing these talks for the last 20-some years, and I was a typical feminist, like, the Sophia is divine. They left her out. Those horrible men. They constructed these religions, and look what they did. They deleted her, and so I blame these Jewish and Christian dogma makers because if you look at it, it was obvious that Peter and Paul. Anybody that you've read about the Gnostic controversy. If you haven't, read Elaine Pagel's. Go to my website. It's all laid out there. But they, there was this Gnostic controversy in the many different sects of Gnosticism. You can't put them all into one pile. But basically, Gnosticism was more of a mystical tradition. It downplayed the crucifixion and the actual temporal events of Christ. They focused on Christ as an inner condition, and they were fought by Peter and Paul and his regime, who said God is at the top. Then you've got Jesus, and then you got Peter, and then you got his bishops, then you got the people. If you want God, you got to go through this male hierarchy to get to God. The Gnostics, no, they shared the teaching. Women were allowed to teach. The whatever you want to call it, the Allah, the God, the divine, whatever is accessible beneath. And they have always been in antagonism with each other. There's always been these two currents of fundamentalism, which has a male hierarchy, versus the mystical tradition. And you can see it now in Iran, you can see it in Afghanistan, you see it in Iraq. You have the Sufis who experience Allah with their divine whirling dervish, and that breakdown of that patriarchal hierarchical structure occurs in their ecstatic dancing. They receive it through the dancing. And on my website you can read about all the mystics, from Russian Sophiology, Jakob Burma, all these guys. Rudolf Steiner, he started his anthroposophical movement. There's a million, they're all over the place. Okay, now for the juice. Okay, the real juice of this talk, okay? All right, monotheism. Okay, now this is just my interpretation. It's my latest interpretation, because every 2 or 3 years I get new. A symbol is infinite. It's a doorway. It's an organ of vision. And what you're looking at, through the organ of vision of this personified symbol, whatever it is for you. It could be Ma'at, it could be Orpheus, it could be, whoever, whatever. It's an organ of vision. So this organ of vision, every couple of years I see something else. And this past weekend when I was thinking about what Jonas wanted me to do, I said, I can't go the misogynist route again. I'll make all the men angry, and I don't hate men. I really love men. I'm not a man hater. Trust me, I'm really not. So this is what came to me. Okay. Monotheism. Monotheism is a creation myth. It's the Western creation myth. You have a God. You have a God, and you have humanity. Okay. You have, it's a creation story. If you have a creation story that glues society together, that becomes the functioning dynamic of the collective of the humanity that you're dealing with in the West, in the West, you can't tell people that that somebody else wrote the story. You can't tell people that there's a storyteller. You have to get people to believe the story. Okay? Not that this was a plot. This is just the natural order of things. So when we're immersed in the story, everything is ordered very coherently. God's in his heaven, all rights with the world. Well, all is right with the world, unless the Cardinals lose. And then the guy in the Cardinals says, he doesn't mention that God wasn't with him then, but when they win, oh, God is with me. I mean, you hear this crap all the time. So, okay, so the heart and soul of this talk is this, okay? Sophia is the fabricatory function of psyche, in the Greek sense, suke, okay? In the sense that Carl Jung would talk about it as the periphery, the be-all and end-all, of what we are embedded in as human beings. The whole human brain structure of language that we experience our world. Sophia is the fabricating function of suke, psyche, soul, that structures the creation story as a dyadic phenomenon. Okay, so Magda just showed our dyad there. Okay, so consequently, because of the formation of this monotheistic model, all of our institutional models were created according to this overarching model of monotheism. So you have not only God and humanity, you have the Pope and his church. Okay? You have the priest and his congregation. You have a one and a many. Now those of you who are philosophers recognize that this corresponds exactly to Plato's notion of the same and the other. This is the dyad in Platonism. Okay? This is the dyad. This is the dyad. It arises with creation. Okay? It is not what in Vedanta would be called, those of you who love the problem of the one and the many would know that the non-dual notion of the one is, let's say, more precise than to call anything one. We know there's one because there can't be two, but to say non-dual is more, precise, philosophical. Okay, so if Sophia is the dyadic structure, not of the world, but of the psyche, okay? The psyche expels within itself, projects and expels a God, okay? That then we relate to as the humanity. That then, okay, so we're in this dyadic relationship of the one and the many. We're the congregation. We're the humanity, and then we pray to God. Meanwhile, this is happening within psyche. Corbin calls this the mundus imaginalis. In Ibn Arabi, in Iranian Sufism, of course, comes from Sophia. This is the Alam al-Mithal. Okay, and if we have time, I'll go into that. So now you have priests and you have congregations. And all the congregation has to go through the priesthood, and then the priesthood controls your access to divinity. Meanwhile, in Christianity you have the mystics. Meanwhile, in Judaism you have the Kabbalists in the Middle Ages. And then you have the glorious Islamic Sufis doing their dances, who are accessing the divinity within the body, down here, nature.